Hey everybody, Crunky here. Just want to remind you that we are on Patreon, patreon.com/GoLurkYourself. You can learn all about it by going to that website, but basically for $1 extra an episode, we do bonus episodes every month. We also have other tiers where you could be a guest on the show, get some merchandise, or even recommend topics. So hit us up there and we'll see you soon. Enjoy this week's episode. Bye! Welcome to Go Lurk Yourself, a podcast about streaming and playing video games on the internet. My name is Crunky.
And I am Cherry Cake.
And today we're going to talk about Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
I also think that did you have to think what it was called then?
I did. I just been calling it Sekiro, but Shadows Die Twice is actually part of the title.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's a pretty important part of the title, as we'll get to. And just a word of warning up front, this is not a full review. I've not had a chance to play through the entire game like I wanted to by now, but it came out literally 30 hours ago. And as the time of this recording, and I had to work on Friday, and yesterday at the Crunky household, my water heater went out, and I had to... I tried to fix our existing one for 4 hours, and that didn't work, so I ended up having to replace it at 10 o'clock last night. Luckily, our hardware store was open late.
You need to get your priorities straight. Forget about the water heater. Just play video games. This is more important.
I played till 2 o'clock this morning, too. I've got between 10 and 12 hours into the game, which, if you've played a Souls game, you know that could be really far, or it could be the third boss because you're stuck.
Yeah, God.
And I'm really glad I played last night because my impressions would have been completely different had I not got to this area last night. But...
Oh. So, before we do get into your opinions on Sekiro, have you been playing anything else this week?
This weekend I've played a bit of Rainbow Six. I played a lot of games this weekend, as a matter of fact. With the news, or this week, I should say, before this weekend happened, with the news of Nintendo loaning the Zelda franchise to this Crypt of the Necrodancer developer.
Yes.
I actually booted up and played Crypt of the Necrodancer again because I've not played it in a while, and I forgot how great that game is.
Oh, cool.
It's a rhythm-based game, and I last played it probably 2 years ago. Before I ever came to Twitch, actually. It was longer than that. It had to be 3. And I used to use the Steam... the Steam... little extender box. I don't remember what they call it. Steam Link, that's what they call it. And I would play on my TV downstairs, and that's the game that I realized the Steam Link has a half a second input delay.
Oh,
so it doesn't work.
Not good.
No, it doesn't work for rhythm games or any kind of any game where timing is important. As fighting games or even Dark Souls, it's I couldn't parry all of a sudden. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And once you notice it, in a game where it's a third person or first person, and you have to move the camera. It's a half a second before the camera moves. Oh. It really makes me nauseous. It's crazy the difference it makes.
There's something actually, this is a little bit off topic, but it's kind of relevant to this week. Have you heard about Google's foray into streaming video games?
Google's? Yes, I have.
Sorry, I promise you I'm not drunk.
All right. Sure, that's what they all say.
That was a beer that I opened, not a kind of Coke.
Yeah, I heard about the Google. What is it? Stadia?
Stadia?
Yeah. That streaming box. Microsoft's releasing one this year too. It's going to be a Xbox One S-ish. That's completely without a hard drive. Yeah. There's no installing games on it. Everything has to be streamed, which, if you live in an area with good enough internet that you can stream and the service is reliable, that's probably the future, like the Netflix of video games. So, it kind of takes me back to I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but therein lies a problem because you've just put a caveat on it there saying if you live in an area where the internet is good enough, there are a lot of people that don't get good internet. So if this is the future of gaming, then the people that are not do have poor internet are going to struggle because they won't have the equipment or ability to play games.
Yeah, I think what it's going to do sort of what Netflix and Hulu and all those companies have done. It's going to splinter the market into people who have the ability to stream high quality entertainment and those who don't. There'll still be content for them. They're not going to stop releasing physical copies because there's going to be a market there. But there's also... Yeah, I think so because they don't want, like you said, there's a percentage of the population that they don't want to lose that business to. So if they're going to develop the game anyway, having a smaller run print of it, what may not, maybe the cost of physical media will go up. I don't know, but I think those people who those publishers that actually print the discs, they probably make some money on that. They don't want to see that go away 100%. So
yeah.
I think what they're going to do is this is a way for the Googles, the Microsofts, the Nintendos. Nintendo's got their own streaming service that's right now launched in Japan, where they can control and they can test it a little more concise because they've got faster internet. Everything's geographically close, all in Japan, so you don't have ping issues to worry about. That's been on the Switch for like a year and a half already, and I don't have any. I haven't not heard any news about it coming, to Europe or to the United States or anywhere else. But I'm sure that's part of the plan.
Yeah, I can see it working in Japan because Japan as a country is very technology forward. So I reckon that majority of their country has internet that is more than capable to deal with this kind of streaming. But in other parts of the world, like I know in England that at least there are areas that just they don't have fiber optic. They have like running like really really slow internet. So providing that they still keep with the physical copies, then that's fine. But I'm concerned that they will just forget about that if the streaming, the game streaming actually becomes like a big thing. But I don't know. I hear the concern for sure, and I understand it. And I guess what I'm relating it to is sort of 5-10 years ago when Netflix started streaming. Yeah, I heard a generation older than me. Well, I got to have my physical copies. There's no way I'm going to give that up. What if the internet's out? What if they decide to stop? I'm like, even today in 2019, you can still go to the store and buy physical copies of movies and TV shows, or on Blu-ray is the latest one. I think I don't have any physical media anymore on movies, because of the availability. But yeah, it's a especially the difference between streaming a movie and streaming a video game is that input lag that we were just talking about with just in my house having input lag. So like twitchy games where you have to have absolute minute control, I don't think those will ever, I don't know, I can't say never, but I don't think anytime soon they're going to be 100%. This is just streaming now, like a game like Street Fighter. Yeah. Although I will say it wasn't that long ago, I said there's no way a game like Street Fighter can work online because of between two opponents because of the input lag, and they netcoded around it. So I think there's things that can be done from a development standpoint when they make the game and how its netcode works. One of the things that Call of Duty actually pioneered that I flipping hate is ping balance, where what happens on your screen is not what happens on the server, because it tries to split the difference to be fair to both sides. Yeah. And that leads to things that we've talked about at length on this that happens in PUBG, of dying around corners and shit like that. Yeah. Because the other player saw your character get shot, the server says you got shot even though on your screen you didn't. Yeah. So I think that's going to be, as they roll this out, and let's be honest, there's too much money to be made for them to not do that. Yeah. All those board of investors and things on the board of directors at Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, now Google, they're looking at Netflix dominating the home video industry, and they're like, we want some of that pie, and and it's just the way they're going to go. And I think there'll be a split market, sort of like there is on physical movie media. Yeah. But hopefully, and we all know how this goes, hopefully the cost of movies like Netflix will go down overall, because you're taking out the publishing cost and the physical media press cost. That like there's a whole industry now with used games. Wait. You said the Netflix and movies. Mm-hmm. Do you not mean games?
No, the way that the movies are now cheaper to rent and buy than they were before Netflix existed.
Oh.
I think video games they'll come down in price more on average with indie games and big AAA publishers putting out $40 games. That's happening more and more than it ever had. And part of that was just the cost of getting a disc made or a cartridge or whatever it was when you played it as a kid. That physical cost, whether it's a small game like Crypt of the Necrodancer or Rocket League, think of all the games that have come out in the last 10 years that were online only and were reduced cost because of that. PUBG, there's never been a physical copy. Fortnite's free to play because it's full of microtransactions, but there's no physical copy to worry about. Those costs didn't have to be sunk. So it's a give and take. I hear you 100% about people in areas that don't have really good internet. But what are those guys doing now? They're not playing. If you live in an area that doesn't have enough internet to play Fortnite.
No, but the problem is that the Stadia is not going to be able to download things. You're streaming directly from them. You're not downloading the game and then playing it online. Right. With the Fortnite or any other game that PC, you're downloading the game and then playing it. Yeah. So it's going to have a capability of being able to stream and play at the same time without having that downloadable content first.
Yeah, and some of the neat things about that is the game's physically launched and ran on a remote PC, right? And you just have access to it. So I don't know. I'm not as concerned about it because what the Google and Sony and Microsoft and all those guys that are doing this have to figure out is making it work well for the largest percentage of the people who try it, because people like you and me, if we try it and then we have a bunch of input lag and it's not an enjoyable experience, we're like, well, not doing that anymore. I'll go buy my physical copy. So I think they'll find if it's possible for them to make a game that plays well remotely and feels just like the real thing, and you don't have to do things like, imagine, just go down this rabbit hole with me for a minute.
Go on.
Imagine that it works great.
Okay.
And it's imperceptible to us that it happens. The games are at least the same cost, maybe cheaper. There's no install files. There's no update things. Oh, I'm looking at the shop. That game looks really good. I want to play it. You click a button and it just is there. Now you're in it. There's no, I'll see you in 3 hours while it downloads to my hard drive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The upside, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I have trust that they're going to find a way. They're going to code it in a way that makes it work pretty well to the first impression. Otherwise, it's going to die on the vine immediately.
Not only that you were just saying then, if it does work, that's fine. But my other concern, it's not really a concern, but would be the price of the actual thing, because you'll be paying for a console. I guess a console in quote marks, but I would be curious to see how much they're going to retail it for.
Yeah, I don't think that information's been made public yet, but I agree with you.
No, not at all. But
I think that's. if you think about the tech that goes into a computer right now, into a modern console, PS4, for $400 US. I don't know what they cost for over there, but you've got hard drives, graphics processors, motherboards, regular processors on the board, all those things, RAM, all those things get stripped down because the processing power you need to stream a video to your screen is literally what's in a set-top box. Like I don't know what you have Netflix, right? What do you watch it on at your house?
Well, I watch it on my laptop.
Okay, so, but have you seen the little set top, the Apple TVs and the Amazon web streamers? Those are these little bitty boxes that have hardly any processing power in it, like any storage space. So the idea is, and if Google does this right, you won't necessarily have to get that box. It'll probably be the controller that'll be the key thing, because if all they're doing is accepting video from a stream to put on your screen. Because what I've read is the actual controller, instead of hooking to the set-top box like in today's setup, hooks to your Wi-Fi and it gives commands directly to their servers. It doesn't even go through your set-top box. So you basically have a transmitter in your controller and you have a receiver in your Google Arcadia or what is it, Stadia. I called it Arcadia.
Arcadia.
Your Google Stadia or whatever. I think that you won't necessarily have to have their set-top box in order to play it. Imagine if you could go buy a $40 controller and then you have everything you need to play anything on Google Stadia. That would be pretty impressive. If you could just stream it right through your tablet or your smartphone or your laptop.
Well, if they retail it for $40, everyone would be over that, regardless of. But again, like it comes down to the very, very basic requirements of doing something like this. Is that the netcode has to be good. Yeah,
I agree.
So that is the main starting point that they have to make sure is solid. Because otherwise, like you were saying, if you're going to get input lag against playing other players, it's unplayable. I've played games that have got like a half a second or a second lag, and you just, especially in fast-paced games, again, what you were saying earlier, it's just not playable. So providing they get that right, they could potentially have a very decent concept on their hands.
Did you ever see or hear the feedback from when Google tested Assassin's Creed Odyssey?
Yes.
A lot of people said it worked really well. What did you hear? I didn't hear anything but good feedback, but I didn't listen to a bunch of people.
I think the people that were giving the feedback were a little bit biased. Because if you looked at it objectively, this wasn't about the input lag. This was about the quality, graphics wise.
Okay.
Yeah, they did I was watching a podcast. I forgot the name of them. The podcast from Funhouse called Dude Soup, and they were covering this, and they did a side-by-side comparison of the Stadia playing Assassin's Creed compared to, I think it was a console version. I can't remember which one.
Sure.
But the quality difference was very noticeable.
Artifacting from being streamed.
Yes.
Like blurry, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know about the lag, but maybe they were correct in their reports. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was IGN that I'd heard talking about it on one of their shows. And I don't think they didn't do a deep dive and talk about all the technical side, probably like the podcast you were listening to probably did. But their impressions were generally positive for what's basically a beta test, a stress test that they participated in. So the idea that a couple different people were like, it's not terrible was a positive sign because it was beta. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But, and let's say that they roll it out and they decide, hey, this doesn't work for Twitch first-person shooters or any game that requires precise timing on button inputs.
Yeah.
How many other game categories are there that it'd work just fine with? You know what I mean? That's sort of like mobile games have kind of rolled out because you're on 4G network with not great infrastructure and all the players or who the hell knows where they are in the world, what kind of coverage they have. They have more like RTS style games are real popular there because they can what do they call that game? Clash of Clans was I'm probably really dating myself. That's the last big mobile game I've heard of. But like games like that became really popular because they were either turn-based or they could kind of, if a half a second didn't make any difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the future's bright for it. I think it's going to go there regardless of whether I want it to or not. So I'm kind of making my peace with it.
Yeah.
It'll just be a matter of how it falls out. Like what I think is very interesting, and I'm really glad you brought this up, because what happened this week made me think of a few things. It gave me some ideas. I don't have any idea how realistic this is or whether this could actually come to case, but it's interesting evidence happened this week. Google announces there's this new streaming device that Microsoft is also announcing. There's been this rumor going around for a while that Microsoft's bringing Xbox Live functionality to like all devices, tablets, computers, even rumors that it's going to run on a Nintendo Switch. And everyone's like, what the hell is this? Why would you want Xbox Live on your Switch? And the thought occurred to me, and I'm sure this is not news to anybody who pays attention, but that if Microsoft goes to streaming and they want to have the biggest market penetration of all, why would they limit themselves to just streaming to their Xbox, especially since no one bought an Xbox One? You know what I mean?
Ooh, burn.
Yeah, but I mean, if I don't like Xbox, it's not that I don't like it. I don't have a compelling reason to get one.
Yeah.
But if they said, hey, Xbox Live is going to work on your PC, it's going to work on your tablet, it's going to work on your phone, I would definitely look at it. If it's going to run on your Switch as just a display on a streaming site, I would look at it. And then I heard some really weird verbiage on the Nindies Direct this week. Mm-hmm. Nintendo announced, hey, Cuphead's coming to Switch, which, if you guys don't know the history, Cuphead was like partially funded by Microsoft. And in the Nintendo Direct, well, the Nindies Direct, Nintendo said, thanks to our friends at Microsoft.
Yeah.
Doesn't that feel a little seedy? Doesn't that feel a little weird?
Yeah, it makes me really uncomfortable.
And then at the end of it, they rolled out that script of the Necrodancer. I can't remember the developer's name, but they rolled out that Zelda thing, and that was odd too. It like threw me for a loop, but that makes sense. I'm really glad to see Nintendo taking like what has been a very niche. For an indie game, it was very successful, but compared to like a AAA release, it's peanuts. Yeah. And they're like, somebody at Nintendo, I would assume, played it or heard about it and said, wow, these guys did something interesting and different. Let's just give them Zelda. Let's give them the keys to their Lamborghini. Here you guys go. Give us a game. And could you imagine if you were an indie developer and you worked for a few years? I don't know how long they worked. Crypto Necrodancer guys worked on this, but and then all of a sudden Nintendo or Sony or some big long time said, hey, this classic piece of gaming history, what can you do with this?
Yeah. It's kind of come out of nowhere, that, I guess. It's a strange one.
Yeah, but I think there's going to be some shakeups happening going forward with like how we traditionally think about gaming companies and how they're like I think it was you and I talked about it the other day. Was it on the podcast? It was probably off the podcast, about how Nintendo and Microsoft are like rivals in this industry as we know it today. And I think, like, if you go back to the 90s and the 2000s when Sega went under, all of a sudden Nintendo was like, oh, come here, Sega, and took them under their arm and like started like working with them, and like all of a sudden Sonic's in their games. And there's a rumor that Master Chief Collection is going to come out for the Switch. If that happens, you bet your ass Microsoft's going to start streaming to Switch. Because if you think about it, if who is Microsoft going after with the Xbox One X right now? Like the big boy console that we all see, they're going after hardcore gamers who care about graphics and 4K. Nintendo doesn't give a shit about that. Nintendo, we had to drag them kicking and screaming into 1080 this time. So I don't know. I think the world be a changing, and 2020, 2025, we're going to be going, God, you remember when Microsoft and Nintendo were like bitter rivals, and now they're buddies. And I mean, hell, they said it. Remember in 2019, Nintendo said, our friends at Microsoft. To
be honest, like, I was thinking about this after we talked about this yesterday, actually off the podcast. And I was thinking about it earlier today, and I'm not too bothered if they collaborate, because it means that they're merging and potentially losing exclusive titles, which is one thing that really, really bothers me when developers specifically release titles for just one console. You can't get it. So if something's released for the Xbox, I won't be able to get it because I've only got a PS4. If something is only for the vice versa. So that bugs me. And also the other thing that I've read this week as well is a few games being only released for the Epic Store. Yeah. And again, this annoys me because too many people now are jumping on the bandwagon with getting their own launcher. And I haven't used the Epic Store, but I've heard it's not very good. The reason that I like Steam is because it has the function of giving reviews and feedback and recommending games to each other. The Epic Store doesn't have any of that, according to what I've read. So it frustrates me when I'm assuming that a lot of this boils down to money and going to a specific launcher just out of greed. I think it doesn't make you come off very well. I've seen a lot of hate for people choosing the Epic Store over a Steam release?
Yeah, so I've got lots of thoughts on this.
Go on.
Let me first start with the history, my history of online video game mandatory stores. I was in 2004, I think is when Steam launched. Don't quote me on the exact year.
Okay.
I was dead set against it.
Right.
I wanted to get this brand new game called, what the hell is it called? Gordon Freeman with the head crabs. Oh, Jesus. I'm really going to look like an idiot here, so I can't remember the name of it. It's a Valve game. The last Valve game.
Oh, Half-Life.
Yes, Half-Life 2 is going to come out. Thank you.
Okay.
Getting old sucks, everybody. But anyway, Half-Life 2 was going to come out, and I'm like, oh, great. I've been looking forward to playing this Half-Life 2, and like all the websites and back when we used to read gaming magazines, they're all have interviews with them and they're talking about it, and it's going to have all this brand new stuff in it. And then they're like, oh, by the way, Valve and Steam are going to require, even if you go to the store and you buy the physical copy, they're going to require you to install this Steam and have an always-on connection to play Half-Life 2. And I was like, what the fuck is this shit? I don't want to be tied down. I don't want Valve snooping around on my computer, blah, blah, blah. This is why I'm not so against online streaming these days, because it's like, I was so wrong about Steam. So Steam came out, and I installed it, and then all of a sudden, it's like Xbox Live. You have your friends list there. You can chat with your friends, and you can meet up easily. And instead of calling someone on the phone and saying, "Hey, do you want a video game with me later?" and setting up a play date, you can actually just do it right there on the computer. And then all of a sudden, there's a whole place here. I can just download these games. I don't have to go to the store. The games are cheaper here. The games go on sale 3 times a year for ridiculously cheap. So I like all the positives that Steam came with. And back in the early days, Steam didn't have reviews and any of that stuff. And it's only become more feature rich as it goes on. Now, that was almost 2 decades ago, or 15 years ago. And there's been some things that Steam has done really great. There's been some bad things. What I love about Steam is that even though they're a slow moving vehicle, they continuously evolve and upgrade. Sometimes they take a step back here and there. I'm not going to say they don't. And I think they have a flat 30% cut of everything that they sell. So what has happened is they were the de facto only place to shop for games online forever, right?
Yeah.
And then along comes a couple other ones have come and gone, but the big one to take a foothold was EA's Origin. And EA's Origin kind of made their, they were the first ones to do what Epic Store is doing. They came out and they said, hey, do you want to buy an EA game? Well, fuck Steam, you buy it from us.
Yeah.
And this was I'm sorry, go ahead.
That is my problem though, because these platforms are just launchers. Yep. Steam is more than a launcher now.
Yeah.
And it's just so saturated because you have Steam, you have Origin, you've got Ubisoft, you've now got Epic, and a bazillion other ones that no one cares about, just to flipping launch one game that you might play every 2 months.
Right.
It bugs me so much.
Yeah,
just launch it on Steam. Everyone has Steam.
It's frustrating, but if you got to look at it too from what Origin and Epic is doing, is they're saying, hey, we know there's a big cut of our business that we're losing because people don't associate Epic with buying stuff online. They just go to Steam, and if our game's not there, they just buy something else. So what Epic has done, and really to their credit, it's very smart. I don't like having the Epic launcher. I don't like having to launch, which game's here, which game's there, and it's not here, it's there. That's annoying as a consumer. But we're in this period where now that Steam is being challenged a bit, and one of the main ways they're being challenged is Epic does not take a 30% cut. I think it's reportedly, I don't have any hard numbers, I've not talked to anybody in the industry, but I've heard that it's less than Steam. It's cheaper for them to host their games there. And Epic is reaching out and making these deals that's probably they're probably doing it at a very low cost to the publisher. So if you're a publisher and Epic comes to you and says, hey, we've got Fortnite, everybody in the world's playing, everyone's launching the Epic launcher now. Why don't you put your game on ours? We'll promote it better than Steam can. Instead of getting buried in the list of every game under the sun, because Steam, I love Steam. Steam's got a lot of great games, but Steam has a lot of shit. Like go look at the Steam games released in the last month sometime and tell me how many of those are absolute garbage.
Yeah, like I don't dispute that at all. There is a lot of absolute trash on Steam, but it's it's hard to wade through it. But
yeah,
if you do, you will find some absolute gems on there. And I like Steam because they have the is it Greenlight?
Yeah.
Thing that they have. So if you have developed a game and you want to maybe get it off the ground, you can put it in there.
Those are great features. 100% agree. But I think like to understand why it's happening. It is because of a small upstart. Let's say you're a medium-sized indie developer and Epic comes to you and says, hey, you're going to make 40-50% more money if you sell it with us because we're going to promote it better than Steam can because we don't have as much shovelware and we're going to take less of a cut of each sale. You'd be hard-pressed to say no to that.
Yeah, but then you've got to look at the player base that Steam has. Because the backlash that I've seen from games being exclusive to the Epic Store or whatever store not being Steam is so damaging.
Yeah, I agree that if you're not promoted on Epic, if you just were like slyly released on Epic and no one knew about it, then yeah, you're going to be lost. But Epic is like putting it on the front page when people go to launch Fortnite. So everyone who's playing Fortnite is at least has a thing popping up on the screen saying, hey, when you're done playing Fortnite, play this new game that we paid a bunch of money to put on our store. And every week or every month or every couple weeks, they're putting out a free game on Epic. They're trying to get people over. What was it? What's the last one that they launched? They've had probably 4 or 5 that I would never have even opened the Epic Store because I don't play Fortnite. But I read, hey, if you want to play this game that came out 6 months ago, was a pretty big title, but not enough people played it. It's free this month. You just download it. It's yours forever. And I'm like, well, you got me, Epic. But you know, I love Rainbow Six. I launched Uplay to play that, and I hate Uplay. I hate Ubisoft. I used to hate Ubisoft. I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No, I was going to. Yeah, shut up. I had a lot of issues
it's
with
the latency.
With Uplay when I first started launching it. It absolutely messed with my machine, but it seems okay now.
It's still it's not as feature rich as Steam. It's junk and garbage, and it's full of like unlocks. It's got all these like things that are tied into the game. It's a neat idea, but it's annoying to manage. This
is making me so angry.
I can hear it in your voice. You're getting a little testy.
Yeah, Ubisoft. Like, if you go to play Rainbow Six, we play Siege a lot. Do you ever look at the launcher when it opens?
No, because that's a game I can actually launch from within Steam.
But you still have to open Ubisoft.
It does it behind the scenes the way I launch it. I don't know how.
So how many people are going to play Fortnite and then actually looking at the launcher that Epic have made?
Well, I think that's where it's different because you can't launch anything on the Epic Store from within Steam like you can that. Uplay, I think, like to your point, realize the value of still being able to have something show up in the Steam library. And they let a lot of their games. I don't know about all of them, but a lot of them I've seen you can still buy them through Steam, and they just open up Uplay in the background.
Yeah.
But that was a few years ago. When did Uplay launch? Maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago? I don't remember.
I don't know. No.
But I think it's like, and look at the bright side. I know
there's no bright side.
No, there is. There is. Steam has changed their behavior. Competition between Epic and Steam is good for both of them, and it's better. It's good for us. If and when there ever comes a game to Epic that you do care about and you do want to play, it'll be better.
I refuse to play
it. Well, that's your prerogative, but there may come a day like there did for me back when I said, you know what, my need or my want to play this game outweighs my hatred for having.
You had no choice.
I'm saying if a game comes out that you really want to play and it's on Epic, you'll have no choice. Your choice will be to either play it or don't install it, or never play it. And that was my choice that I had to make with Half-Life 2. Was either don't play Half-Life 2 or install Steam.
I just hate Epic. End of. I hate Epic and their world. I'm
not
sorry to whoever likes them or whoever likes playing Fortnite, but they do not sit well with me.
Yeah, I understand. I used to hate Steam with about as much passion, and what I came to realize is that sometimes these things are immovable objects. They're coming, and you either get on the train or you don't. And I'm not saying I have no compelling reason to install to put Epic on right now. The games that I've downloaded, I played here and there, but not for any length of time. So if they get a massive exclusive release, like what was the one the third game in the franchise. There was a big article about it because it was actually pre-released on Steam. People who pre-ordered it, is it Metro?
Oh, Metro, yeah.
Yeah, the new Metro game. People who pre-ordered it on Steam had to get refunds through Steam.
Yeah.
Because they just said they'd pulled out and said, we're not going to release it on there at all.
But that is a dumb move by whoever made Metro anyway, because they should have realized they should have made the decision from the start. Are you going to release it on Steam? Or are you going to go exclusive? So, because then it would never have got to that point.
Yeah, my impression of it was that they probably had made the decision to put it on Steam, and then Epic approached them and gave them a deal so good that they couldn't pass it up.
But again,
it was cheaper to deal with the fallout of it.
They got so much grief for that. The amount of thumbs down, I guess, and just aggro from the reviewers on the Steam store for doing that. I'm fairly certain that hurt their sales.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I remember how Half-Life 2 was going to be the worst game in history, according to the media and all the people online, because of how they forced Steam to go on there. But have you ever heard of this issue before? Have you ever heard of all the stink that caused and how Half-Life 2 is a terrible game because of it?
Mm-hmm.
No, it like people are upset about it now, but they will soon forget.
Yeah,
but the people online, bitching is free. I mean, we're doing it right now. You're listening to us bitch about it for free. But when it comes to dropping money, I don't know. I've not looked at the sales because we didn't really plan on talking about this. But I didn't look at the sales for Metro. But I'm curious now to see how it did. Because I agree with you. By not being on Steam, there is a percentage of the people who are going to buy Metro who are now not going to. Yeah. But what I've found often, like when Origin and EA and anytime there's a boycott in a game, you'll see hundreds of thousands of people signed up for this boycott. We're not going to buy this game because we're not happy about what they've decided to do for whatever issue. And then the very next day, game has record-breaking sales. What game was it that it was like people were bitching about some Call of Duty or some shooter that was popular, and people were mad about, I don't know, pick your issue. And it was a screenshot on Reddit of a Discord or a Ventrilo or whatever it was in old school. And like it said the status of all the people that were in this group of people who were boycotting it, and like half of them were playing it on day one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess because I've seen it before, it doesn't I can understand why they're doing it. I let my hatred for having to launch different things. What was it? Our friend General Chaos Live the other day was on Twitch, and he was going to go play that game Twitch Sings. Mm-hmm. And he was literally asking his chat, which launcher is this in? Yeah. Because Twitch now has its own game launcher. So does Discord. Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate, like, I'm
the root of of this problem is you hate having to launch different games different places. I get it. 100% get it. Yeah. And you're not wrong to feel that way. And I was of the opinion that in early 2000s, when I want a video game, I'll go to the store and get the goddamn game I want. I don't need you to come here and try to sell me shit on my home computer. But can you imagine a time when there was nobody trying to hawk you stuff through their store on your home computer? There was a day.
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah. Now everything you open has a freaking store.
Yeah.
Don't even get me. Go ahead.
Go on.
I said, don't even get me started on Microsoft Windows Store.
Oh God. That's just probably the worst one of the lot, and that's from Microsoft. That's the Windows Store. That is the worst UI for a store that I have ever seen. Epic's isn't great. It is not user-friendly at all, but Windows is worse.
I think I've launched the Windows Store twice, and one of them was on accident. One of them was to buy Sea of Thieves, and the other one was to refund it.
Yeah. Yeah, like, me and Zeko ended up doing Sea of Thieves, it was, and he persuaded me to get the Game Pass that they do.
Yeah.
So you get it's 7 days free or 2 weeks or a month, and you can pay so much for it. And having to connect that, it's such a convoluted route that you go from the store to a browser to your account, back to the store, back to the browser, and it's just utter trash. They need to do something with that.
Or they could just not, because Sea of Thieves is not fun for me.
Ooh,
I'd rather play Raft than Sea of Thieves. How bad is that?
Hey, Raft's okay.
Yeah. So that's our early impressions of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, everybody.
I'm so sorry. That was a 40-minute rant on...
No. As I said earlier, I'm not very far into Sekiro, so this is probably good. I want to do a full-on review of this, maybe in a week or two.
When you finish it.
Yeah, because I really absolutely love the game. But when I say absolutely love the game, I absolutely love it one minute, hate it the next. Let's go ahead and get into the review here, or the impressions real quick. Have you got a chance to watch...
You guys have stuck around for this long.
Yeah. If you're here to hear Sekiro, thanks for sticking around for 40 minutes while we talked about everything else. But
we'll put a little bit at the beginning saying, if you want to hear about Sekiro, just fast forward 40 minutes.
Skip to 40 because we kind of go off on a tangent. We're actually thinking about renaming this podcast to Go Tangent Yourself.
Go rant yourself.
Go rant yourself. There you go. Yeah. Was it our last episode? On our last full episode, or was it our Patreon episode where we ranted about both games?
No,
I think it was last week.
Last week, yeah.
What
did we do last week?
We ranted about a couple of different games that we hated.
Oh, Trials,
yeah.
And what did you do? Oh, Street Fighter 5,
yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about Sekiro.
Sekiro, as you know, is the latest from Software game set in what do you call it? An alternate timeline, 16th century Sengoku period Japan. Which I didn't know any of this. I'm obviously reading this from Soft, but you basically play a shinobi character who is in charge of taking care of this lord, and the lord is a young child that he has some kind of rare dragon blood in him that everyone's after. And it basically makes people immortal. And in a left turn or a swerve from the FromSoft folks, this game does not really play 100% like what you think Dark Souls or Bloodborne would play like. When Bloodborne came out, it was a lot or even Demon Souls. It was a lot different than Dark Souls and Demon Souls, which were sort of very similar with a couple of caveats, weird things about it. But Bloodborne came out. It was different in setting and aesthetic, but it was quicker. It was a lot faster, but it still played like a Souls game. It had the methodical controls. You couldn't jump. It was all about dodging and countering and fighting through some hits. Sekiro is more like, have you ever played not the new God of War, but the old God of War, where you could attack and hit waves of enemies and jump?
I haven't played it, but I have seen footage of it, yeah.
So it's basically, it's more of a traditional third-party action game, but where the Souls influence comes in is cutscenes, animations, dialogue, how the dialogue kind of goes back and forth, and also the combat is very technical. Yeah. This is the most technical combat I've seen in a Souls game. It's more technical than Bloodborne or Dark Souls or Demon Souls to me. And that has its own learning curve and level of frustration that I didn't expect. Not that I didn't expect. It surprises me how technical it is. Yeah. In Dark Souls or Bloodborne, it's actually in Dark Souls, it's block, dodge, counter, or parry, right? You can only do one of those three things in a combat. And in this game, you can jump out of the way, you can dash out of the way, you can parry them in real time. There are special moves you learn that counter moves from the enemy. Like there's a special move that like spear guys or even sword guys can get. That's a thrust attack. And early on, you learn an ability that lets you basically, if you time it just right, if you hit the dash button right when that attack lands, instead of actually dashing, you'll jump on top of their blade and open them up for a counter.
Was this the part that you were having an issue with? Or is that a different guy? You know, the one with the long pokey stick?
Yes.
That kept killing you?
Yeah, that was
move?
part. Yeah, it's not necessarily that move that was causing me the problems. It was because instead of having, like in Dark Souls, you just block the whole time until you kind of figure things out. This time they'll attack you with that pokey attack that if you don't dodge correctly or counter correctly, hits for like 90% of your life. If they do a sweeping attack, you have to jump. Nothing else will work.
Right.
If they do a move that has to be parried, then if you don't parry correctly, like these little Japanese symbols flash above them when they're about to do an attack that cannot just be dodged,
right,
or parried, and you have to get really good at like being very responsive to those. And that's long and short of it. That's what makes this game frustrating. It also has some very shady hitbox action. Like,
ooh, really?
Yeah, there's a mini boss early on who is a tall troll creature who's got his head stuck in some stalks.
Yeah.
And he breaks loose and you fight him. And he has this like move where he like crouches down and he jumps at you. And I'm not kidding. I dodged to the right of him and I'm a good 10 feet away, and midair, he just warps over and grabs me.
Oh.
And if he gets a hold of you, you're dead. So it's like the game mercilessly punishes you until you learn its mechanics. And that's, you know, tell me, does that sound familiar? Does that sound like a Souls game to you? But its mechanics are so drastically different and a little bit more complicated and technical than previous games that, and there's a little bit of like the cannon fodder enemies that run around. You can pretty much button mash your way through those. Yeah. So the game is like really beautiful art style, and the Japanese setting is really amazing. And I'm playing with the English audio and English subtitles. I've seen some people stream it this weekend. Like I watched a lot on Friday night of Chichin play it because I had heard he was a little farther along than me and he was having some frustrations with it. And I'll get to that in a minute. But he was playing with the Japanese audio but the English subtitles, and I think I might switch to that because it has this, like, with the setting especially, it has this more natural feel to it.
Yeah.
But so what happens is you have these like these areas that are just full of enemies, and like cannon fodder enemies that you don't really have a whole hard time with. But then you go and you run into this mini boss who just whips your ass. And so one thing that I'll tell you, if you're playing Sekiro for the first time right now, make sure you go back to your home base and spar with the guy that's there. He has a couple of options to spar. There's like a training guy. He'll let you fight him, and like he could die over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you complete all of the ones that are initially available, newer ones will open up, and they're really worth doing. I did it too late. Also, if you're playing this, there is a bell that you find early on that you can go offer to this Buddha statue. That basically, as you pray to this Buddha statue, you have a vision, and in this vision, your character goes back in time. And you play his memories from 3 years ago.
Okay.
And it's sort of like this is their weird mechanic in this game. I was reading a little bit about it in preparation for this. I don't have 100% of this down, so if you finish the game and you're listening to me talk and I get something wrong, this is just my impressions right now. I'm not done with the game, but basically that is a side path to the game that you can continue to go back to. Huh. And the way when I told you guys, our friend Chichin who's playing it was getting pretty frustrated. It's because he thought that was just the way he needed to go. And what it seems to me that you're supposed to do is go there until you get frustrated, then go back to the main game and go forward, and then jump back and forth. Right?
Oh, right.
And what he was doing is he went through to this boss called the Drunkard, who has like 30 people around him that you have to somehow take care of. This game has a lot more stealth elements in it than any Souls game has ever had. And when you first start playing, you're like, oh, I don't need stealth. I'll just fight through everything. Then you run into an area where there's just crawling with guys. And if you don't go thin that herd, you will get overran and you will die.
Yeah.
But he got past that drunkard guy and just kept going. And like Chichen's a very good Souls player. He's a very good gamer in general. I watched him do like the top end Devil May Cry 5 stuff. And so he was like able to beat this drunkard guy way before he was supposed to. And he was getting frustrated because the bosses after that were even harder and even harder. And I think that in reading through some of the press releases and some of the reviews, there's like a branching paths and different endings depending on if you complete all of his memories before finishing the game or how far you've made it changes like what happens at the end.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's this is the kind of stuff that FromSoft is really good at, is having these branching gameplay things or they make the games replayable because you can actually, flip different switches or do different character interactions that change the outcome and what the ending means. So because I've not finished it, I don't know a whole lot of the detail about that, but if you pray to that bell, fight through the first boss and then go back. Don't keep going or you're going to get really frustrated. You're going to get more frustrated than normal. But before we finish up here, because that's really the extent of it. The last thing I played, there is because I read that stealth was completely optional. And then I get to this area where I'm climbing on this mountainside in these caves, and they're in this like between two cliff valleys. I'm running along the edge here on like some janky bridges and cliff faces. And there is I'm not kidding when I say a 10-story tall snake, maybe 100-story tall snake.
Oh yes,
have you seen this?
Put a short GIF in our Discord chat.
Yeah,
and my God,
I'm telling you that GIF is just him striking in one particular spot. I had called Dee and I'm like, you got to see this, and she comes in and like it is. I don't get like creeped out in games. Like I know you're like have a spider phobia, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a snake phobia, but I think I might now because. It makes you stealth around this giant snake, and you have to like wait for his head to move away and go in the grass, and there's a meter in this game, sort of like a Hitman game where like there's a meter of how much someone can detect you.
Oh yeah.
And you could upgrade your character through experience points. You can like increase your stealth, or you can increase your combat abilities. You have this thing on your arm. You have a fake arm prosthetic that can be attached with a like bunch of different things. The grappling hook that you've seen on all the trailers. So the snake, you're running around, you're hiding from him, and you have to do this like you have to shimmy against a wall to get by him, and the whole time he's like really close to you. You can see all the gory detail of all his teeth inside of his mouth, and he's making all this noise. It's genuinely creepy and very well done. And you sneak into this little hut thing, and he sees you, and he comes up and he puts his eye right next to it. And in Sekiro, you can instead of doing a combat where you just knock their health meter down, they have every character has a stance meter or a posture meter. If you break their posture, you can get a one-hit kill on them, an insta kill.
Oh wow!
And the little dot that highlights who that has been in every Souls game that highlights who you've got selected starts glowing red. It's this big red glow. That means go up next to him and push attack, and you'll do an execute move on him. Yeah. And the snake gets really close and just puts his eye inside the thing, and the execute move comes up. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I pushed it just instinctively, and Sekiro jams his freaking katana into his eye, and he like, it doesn't kill him though. He like freaks out and starts thrashing around. Yeah. And man, it was super awesome. Then you have to run and get away from it. And it's very action paced. And then like when you go into this cave, I turn around to see where he was, and he strikes and his mouth hits the edge of the cave right as you get in. Yeah. Super well done. Like I got chills when I played it. And it was the first time I played this game. It was the first time in this game, 10 hours in, that I was like, okay, this is something different, something magical. There's some more of that FromSoft magic in here that I've come to expect. Yeah. I watched you stream it. I think it was probably the day it came out. Was it Friday? Yeah. And I have to say, I'm really intrigued by it. I'm not a Dark Souls
fan. I have played a bit of Dark Souls 1, but I think this is slightly a step away from the Dark Souls series in gameplay style. So I think it's just different enough to maybe have a larger catchment for people that maybe were on the fence about playing it. And it's kind of got me interested.
Yeah, in the first, instead of being published by Bandai Namco, which all the other Souls games were, this one's published by, I say that I think Demon Souls was published by Atlas, but this was published by Activision, and the name Shadows Die Twice means that instead of in all the other Souls games, you die, you drop your currency, your experience, and your money that you use to do all your upgrades. You drop it, and you have to go recover it. They don't have any of that in this game. They have basically anytime you die, you can immediately res one time. That's where the Shadows Die Twice is from, and then without penalty. And then if you go rest, it resets. Right. If you die twice, you drop 50% of your money and experience, which are separated this time.
And you can't get them back. No,
they're just gone. Now, there is a mechanic that I don't fully understand yet, but it's basically you have a percent chance called, it's got some name, like something aid, and it's 30% at default. If you die twice, there's a 30% chance, and it's just, you'll get this like Hero's Aid or whatever it's called. I'm getting the name wrong, but basically you don't lose anything. You don't use anything. But every time you die, the NPCs around you start to get this thing, this flu or plague called dragon rot. And it's like literally the characters you're talking to upgrade, and the one that fixes your weapons, they like are coughing and like puking up blood. It's really disgusting. And watching Chich and I realized that later on you can get some items that kind of reset that. But I don't have a lot of experience in that yet. I've not reset it once, and like I think I've died probably 30 times in the game, maybe more. And my like the one of the healer gal goes over to the guy that works on and she's like, yeah, he's not doing great, and I'm taking blood samples from his vomit to like to do investigations on the sickness. But
so the more you die, the sicker they get.
Yes.
Is your resurrection taking from them or something like that? Yes.
Yeah. The story that what I've been able to piece together is this lord you're protecting is like some kind of, he's got some kind of issue. Like there's been a little hint that something happened years ago that he was like more than human, and he's immortal because he's got dragon blood in him. And clearly something's happened to Sekiro because he cannot die.
Yeah.
There's another guy in the town who cannot die as well. He's the guy that you practice with, and he just says, I cannot die, and you fight him. And in FromSoft, you're always worried to answer a question because you don't know what like levers you're pulling for the story down the road. There's a time when I finished all my training, he said, could you go easy on me next time? Even though I can't die, it still hurts when you cut me with a sword. and it allows you to thank him or apologize to him. And I was like, well, I'll apologize to him. Or no, I thanked him. And he had some dialogue that was like, no, I'm glad that my pain and suffering is good for something. So I don't know what that did. You could no longer answer the other one. So it was, you couldn't do both. So that in a Souls game, that usually means, I don't know what this means. It may be nothing in this game, but in a Souls game, it could mean that like paths are now forever blocked off on this playthrough.
Yeah.
And I would imagine some of the fun in playing and replaying a Souls game is finding these like they hidden areas, hidden dialogue trees, hidden things. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I will say in playing this, it reminds me of the first time I played Bloodborne. The first time I played Bloodborne, the opening area is particularly difficult for its time, and it's frustratingly difficult. And unlike in Dark Souls, when you got frustrated, you could try a different path. In Bloodborne, the very first opening area, there was only one way to go. You had to go through there's a spot where there are these two werewolves that you have to learn how to fight them. And the Sekiro has multiple spots where last night I was playing, I got to this guy on horseback, and just whipped my ass. I went from like, normally in a Souls game when I die, I'm like, that didn't work, but I'm going to try this. In this game, I'm like, I don't know what else I could do. He just, everything I do, he runs me down. He's on a horse, so he's really fast. He's faster than me. He's got this big stick that's on a chain. He can lash out for 50 yards in any direction. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But, what happens is in this game, when you're stealthing around, there are certain conversations you can eavesdrop on. And usually this one, it was like, there's a guy he's sitting next to his dead horse and he's crying, and you can eavesdrop in, and he says, my poor horse, some gunpowder startled him and he died from it. And that's the game's way of telling you, hey, there's a guy you're going to fight later that has a horse, and gunpowder is what you need to use against him. So I go find some gunpowder, and I go back to this fight, and I use it, and it spooks the horse into rearing up.
Oh, wow.
The horse rears up for, like a second and a half that I could get 3 swipes in, and then it's back to what I was doing before. So it's like, well, I made progress. I hit him twice, so hey. Yeah. And most of the enemies in this game that I've seen so far have required two death blows. What I mean by that is you have to break down their stance meter, and then you get an execute move where you jump up, like stab your sword to their neck and like twist it around. Yeah. But the mini bosses so far have been like full on. You get an execute move on them, and then their health is reset. Fight them again.
Oh man.
Yeah, because you get 2 lives, they get 2 lives.
Well, yeah, I guess that's fair.
Yeah, but so far, like, I'm really glad that I ran into that snake area, because that was the first time that I was like, okay, I'm not frustrated. I'm not trying to figure out what the hell to do next. It was just cool. I knew what to do. It was impressive visually. And I've never seen anything like that. And there's never been really stealth and like purposeful stealth. There's been times where you can sneak by shit, but this time there's like a mechanic where there's tall grass you can hide in. You can like shimmy up next to walls. And I've actually spec'd my character to where he has more stealth, because I wanted to like experience what a stealthy Souls game could be. And I know I'm giving up some offensive firepower, but so far so good. I'm impressed with it.
So would you recommend it to Glenn?
I would recommend it. Yeah, I would recommend it. I would recommend it to patient gamers who if you're a Souls player, I don't have to recommend it to you. You probably have already bought it. Yeah. If you're a Souls player who doesn't like the look of it because it's not Soulsy, it doesn't have shields, and you hated Bloodborne, don't get this. But if you hated Bloodborne, you're not a Souls player. Just saying it. Just saying it.
Okay.
Send all your hate mail to at GoLurk yourself. At GoLurk, at GLY Podcast on Twitter. But no, I think Sekiro is good for the Soulsborne lineage, because it's doing some really impressive things. They're branching out. They're staying true to who they are, but they're also branching out. It's not such a total departure that you're going to hate it because it's not Soulsy enough. It's got enough souls in it, but it also does some really great things. And I think it smacks of a lot of pride, like, because it's a Japanese developing company making a game about Japanese shinobi, which is really, I say they never have done. It's the first one since Miyazaki's taken over that they've done. And you can really feel that, like I told you, I wanted to turn on the Japanese audio because I feel like it's more appropriate. I think there's some really cool stuff there, and I'm really looking forward to finishing up and doing a full review on it when I get it done. Nice. Look forward to that. And after you play it, maybe you can do a review too. I will play it when it comes down in price. Yeah, it's a full AAA title right now. Yeah. So, other than reminding everyone to go install Epic Game Store. Yes, sorry about that rant. I'm gonna leave the whole thing in there. Oh yeah, you are. Yeah. Yeah. Apologies to anyone that does like Epic. I'm not really sorry, but I don't think it's really that you hate Epic as much as you hate having to have not Steam to do anything. I just have a profoundly deep hatred of Fortnite, unfortunately. Oh, well, yeah, there you go. Anyway. Back before they made Fortnite, they did make some amazing shooters in the 2000s. Unreal Tournament was really good. That was made by Epic. Yeah. Well, no one remembers them anymore, do they? They're just, it's Epic, it's Fortnite. I remember them, damn it. Did Epic, Was Epic involved in Gears of War? I think at least one of the head guys at Epic went on to make Gears of War.
I don't know. I really don't.
Right. Anyway.
Let's wrap this up. Yeah.
Enough tangents. We're at an hour already.
Yeah.
If you guys want to find out more about me and what I do on Twitter and Twitch, I am at Crunky_Twitch on Twitter, and on Twitch I am twitch.tv/Crunky with 2 N's. How about you, Sherry?
I love how convoluted your handles
It's very convoluted.
If you want to get hold of me, I'm on Twitter. I'm at cherrycake518, and you can get me on Twitch, twitch.tv/cherrycaketv.
Bye, everybody. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, guys.